Well, hey everyone, thank you so much for joining us again. We have another discussion on community and addictions. We're so thankful that you're taking time out of your day to watch these, and we are thankful for that. Jabbar, you had brought something up that you wanted to kind of continue a discussion on or earlier.
Right. I, I just wanted to continue on with somewhat what we were talking about last week,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that uh, people figure, okay, you went to treatment or you started in a recovery program and now you're fixed and it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to just go ahead and move past all this addiction stuff that an addict
Right.
has.
That's in the past. We're not gonna.
Right.
We don't go there.
And so I I was thinking about it, and you know, so as an addict, the people who were around me loved me, whatever. Um, they didn't, even though I may have been there,
Mm-hmm.
mentally, but emotionally, all that, I wasn't there,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't connected to anyone,
Right.
you know, in that, in a way where, even my friendships were broken because I didn't, it wasn't about having a friendship. It was about, what can I do to use,
Right.
and what purpose do they serve? And so I didn't have any connections,
Right.
and the people who loved me and wanted those connections felt that. And so that, even significant others would be lonely while I was there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Does that make
Well,
sense to you?
yeah, I guess for me, I'm gonna try and connect these dots here for us, and maybe I can kind of act as the audience in this sense as well too, because it's you come out of treatment and it's the process of staying clean. You've cut off the access points for the addiction,
Right.
those relationships, and so that puts up I don't want to say a barrier maybe, but maybe just this idea of like I don't have those relationships anymore, so a sense of loneliness. Maybe there's no relational connection there. Because you
Well,
cut that off for cleanliness,
right.
and
That's not really what I was. I was
oh,
talking
okay,
about while I was in addiction. This
while you're in
this
there,
is how I was acting.
yeah,
Is that someone who was trying to be close to me or whatever, or loved me? They still felt alone even while I was there because I was so consumed
right.
with my own
So
addiction.
there's the
So this is a prior thing.
this is a prior thing. So there's the destruction that cut off from the previous relationships while you were using, and all those. So you put yourself in a very lonely place
Right.
in that
But
area.
yeah. Okay.
On all sides,
Right.
all
Let me.
sides, all sides.
Okay. So yes, and the thing is that because I was so consumed with it, that I didn't have, like everything was blinded out.
Yeah.
I wasn't giving the attention that was needed,
Mm-hmm.
and that's very lonely for people who care about this person,
Yeah.
as the addict. So the thing that happens is that, so then you get into recovery,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the person here who is not the addict
Right.
is excited. Okay,
What,
so they're
and the reason it is, I mean, because we can connect on this is like, hey, they're getting fixed.
right. So they're like, I'm gonna have this person back,
Yeah.
right? And there's some truth to that,
Right.
but there's also some disappointment in that, because what happens is that an addict gets into recovery and they have to uh, they have to jump in, and they have to be fully involved, and they have to make that a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they need to make it a priority is because if you're not clean,
Right.
you're back to using, and then everything else is just back to bullshit.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But so then the person on the outside is looking at this and being like, well, wait a minute. I thought that once you get into recovery that we would have you back.
Right.
And you will. And it takes time. And um, you know, so there's some patience that needs
Mm-hmm.
to be there, for those who, because yeah, I would love to have been that person who, as soon as I was like, okay, I'm done with this and I'm going to go to recovery, and could just be loving and caring to everybody else. I
Right.
couldn't do that because I emotionally, um, I was stunted.
Right. Well,
Physically, I
yeah.
was, I mean, like there was just too much. I couldn't. I had to relearn a lot of
Right.
things, and so I wasn't able to immediately be there,
Okay.
right?
Well, and if I can interject here too, because I think that's an important thing for people to understand, is you send your level of content to essentially, quote unquote, get fixed. And that's their mind. Like that's the loved one's mind. It's like my loved one's being destroyed by this. They need to go into recovery and get the help they need.
Right.
Well, so and sometimes the lie is they come back and they're whole and hey they're now re-engaging into this
Right.
family what they should have been in the first place.
Right.
But the truth is they're not. They went to get through a program that helped them put the pieces back together in a way, but then you're learning a new way of thinking, a new way of going through life, and so you come back out of treatment still learning how to deal with the new you,
Right.
and you still have to work on keeping you healthy and learning who the new you is as you're re-engaging, coming back into the community, into your local community, the family unit, whatever you want to call it. You come back into your loved one's life, and you're still learning how to deal with the new you as you get this additional um, environment
Mm.
that has these expectations of like, oh, you're whole. No, I'm learning how to deal with the new me,
Right.
and that can create some interesting environments.
Well, and you know, the thing is that so on the outside of it,
Hmm.
not being the addict, you're looking to have that person back,
Right.
and there might be some resentment that all of a sudden now, instead of going out and getting high, they're going to these meetings all the time, or they're spending
Right.
time with their sponsor, or they're doing
Oh yeah.
things
Well,
that are
yeah.
healthy for them,
Right.
but doesn't feel healthy for you because
Right.
you're like, well, what happened here?
Where's my role?
Right.
You were supposed to lean upon me,
Right.
and now you're not.
Suddenly it's I'm lonely still.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and that's that makes things difficult,
Hmm.
because I could see where I would feel that way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I took myself out of being the person, the addict part, I would be like, well, wait a minute, I'm the one who's been here this whole time for you
Right.
while you were going through this, and now that you're getting healthy, or you're trying to change your life, suddenly,
Right.
well, I'm what? I'm
You,
chopped liver,
yeah. You
like,
don't care. You don't care about
but
me.
that's
What's
not
going on?
but see, and that's a state of mind that needs to be, I felt like needed to be addressed, is that that's not the truth. The
Right.
truth is that they're doing that because they want to have that
Yeah.
relationship with you, but they need to learn it, and it's not intentional.
Right.
And again, if I'm not doing the right things to
Right.
stay clean, and I end up going back to using, you're not going to have that person anyhow.
Yeah.
So do you know you're entitled to the way you feel,
Right.
and so it's not wrong to feel that way
Right.
sometimes, and it's not wrong to even express it, you know but you have to understand that beginning recovery is, you kind of have to jump into it, and you have to really, your life needs to be somewhat consumed by it, so that you can stay away from this area that we've
Yeah.
we've been trying to get away from anyhow.
Well,
And
you got to get into the long game too. Like
right, you
that
want
idea is like
right,
one of the things.
but it's hard to see that when you spent
Yeah.
20 some years watching this person kill themselves,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they're getting healthy,
You
right?
think,
And
hey,
you're like, hey, and then all of a sudden you have to have patience,
yeah. Well,
which may be years again, and it's like, well,
one of the things that's
so it's frustrating. I'm sure.
it is, and one of the things that's really been interesting for me, as a pastor, I've encountered different people with different level of addictions and different level of recovery and all that stuff. But one of the things that's always I think it's been a little bit more appropriate to me now, given what I've been going through lately, um, in our community and in extended family and everything, is the nature of which people refer to themselves. I very rarely do ever hear anyone say they are a former addict. I one or the idea that people use the uh the English term is escaping me right now, but the tense there. So you have the past, present, and future tense verbs.
Mhm.
When you talk to those who used to be addicts who are in recovery, they never very rarely do I hear past tense verbs. I hear present tense. I hear I'm in recovery. I'm going through this. I am an addict going through recovery. Like when I hear that, it helps contextualize the length of the journey. Because as a person who's on the outside, has loved ones, has friends who are going through that mess, it's very easy to be like, yes, get in recovery, get fixed, let's end this. And now you hear that term, let's end it. Whereas the reality is it's not going to be ended, it's going to be ongoing. And for the loved one, it's we have to play that long game. And that's difficult because we want it fixed right now, instead of realizing that there's such a process that we have to go through. And even then, the emotions that those outside have to deal with, because like you're right, there is going to be resentment, there is going to be frustration. um but that's the thing, like we have to deal with that. Like we can't sit there and be like, hey, we're going to compound you with all this stuff when you have your own trunk load of stuff to go through, as you guys are navigating, as the users are navigating recovery outside of the program.
Right.
Out there, they're no longer on it. When I say outside, I mean no longer in person. I'm talking like you're going to outsource
Right.
recovery. um you're learning to navigate in that community again, um outside of that environment. So you're learning how to go through recovery in outdoors essentially. And that's a lot of luggage to carry with that. There's a lot of baggage that has to be shifted through. And so to have a loved one be like, hey, deal with me too,
Right.
that's
Well,
it's
and
there's
there's
unfair in that.
well, no, I don't think it is
Okay,
unfair.
well, that's good. I'm glad we're
Right,
good.
because they spent all these years
Yeah.
dealing with their own problems and then dealing with the addict too.
Mm-hmm.
So so do they have a right to feel resentful?
Oh
Do
yeah.
they have a right to be frustrated? Do they have a right to ask? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the right answer is on that, but but the thing is that so from an addict's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I want to have that relationship build. I want
Oh yeah.
to to do all that stuff, but I can't focus. Like when I first got into recovery, I had no focus, so I had to kind of grab and hold. It's like it's like a roller coaster,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're going up that little hill that's going to get you to recovery, but as soon as you start that ride, you grab on because
Hold on for
so you
dear
have to
life.
hold on to something,
Yeah.
for your own safety. And what happens is you grab onto the recovery people,
Mm-hmm.
recovery program, recovery.
Yeah.
You grab onto it because you have to.
Well,
and
there's a framework
and
there.
so that makes me end up neglecting those people who have done so much and taken so much care to try and keep me alive,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh yeah.
And it's not intentional.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm sitting there thinking, well, I'm gonna dismiss this.
Right.
or anything else. And it's also not that I'm not going to try and be involved. It's just that when you first get into recovery and you first really kind of discover it, you have to you have to make it priority
Yeah.
number one. And
Yeah.
again, I want to say this again, is that if I am not in recovery, I am no good to anybody else,
Right.
because what happens is that you're back in that addiction,
Right.
and suddenly we're back to square one.
Yeah.
So does someone need to have patience? Yes. So my point in all of this that I wanted to really bring up was that not necessarily about the addict. I wanted people to understand that kind of little that that's that area where everything starts to transition or
Mm-hmm.
whatever else. But my point is that okay, so I'm let's say you're the addict, and I'm
Yeah.
your family member who has had to deal with your garbage for
Yeah.
years, and now you're in recovery. You know, what do I do?
Right.
How do I recover from this? Because guess what? It also became a lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had to change my life around so that to protect you, to just to, whatever whatever that occurs.
A great illustration that I'm thinking about right now. When I was a kid growing up, we rescued a dog. There was a German Shepherd, um, precious animal, and we rescued her, and but she had been heavily abused
Mhm.
to the point where she was just terrified of people, and so we brought her into our house to keep her warm, go through this process of healing this dog, terrified of us. Just, I mean, would wet the floor, sitting in a corner, just whimpering by the door, just in utter terror. And so we had to completely adjust our lives to help this rescue animal. We only had her for a short while, 2 3 days, but then we ended up finding a gentleman who wanted her, and so he came to the house and picked up the dog and brought the dog home with him. He named her Queenie, and this is 20 plus years ago, um, and he just adored this abused dog, and she was terrified at first, um, and it got to the point where he made his whole life about taking care of this animal, and to the point that she came out of her shell and was a loving, got healthy dog, but he had to put his life, like, to help this animal heal. And I use that, and it might be a little poor illustration there, but it's like,
Trying to figure
hey,
out where you're going.
addict, you're the dog.
Yeah.
No, but that's kind of the idea though for dealing with a loved one, and the level of patience that you have to have as you restructure your life upon that individual just came out of recovery. They just came out of that. I'm not, and it's kind of a poor example, but I'm using that as a point where you come out of a place where, yes, you're stronger, yes, you have the tools, yes, you have the equipment, but you're still dealing with, for lack of a better expression, broken pieces, and how to navigate those pieces. And as a family, watching somebody try to navigate those pieces, like you said earlier, requires a ton of patience. Um, a ton of patience in navigating that, and on the part of the family, having that patience to realize, okay, this is where they're at. Yes, I might be dealing with resentment, I might be upset, I might be lonely of my own accord, all those things, but they're in a place where they need to be getting stronger. And when, like with the dog, it was about leaving the animal alone until it was ready to approach us. It was being always being present, but never being forceful. And just when the timing was right, they'll change the relationship on this way on us.
Mhm.
Um, like to switch places. I'm your loved one, and you come to me after recovery, and all this stuff is going on. Like, okay, that's wonderful, and we'll put our boundaries here. We'll do this for you, and that's wonderful. And I will deal with my resentment however I need, and this is where we can shift the conversation talking about the healthy community. But I will be here when you are ready. and maybe unspoken, maybe it can be awkward to have that conversation, but it might be needed. But that idea of where I'm just going to do it patiently and supportively, and if need be, change my patterns for what your needs are. You know, hey, I don't go to the grocery stores on Tuesdays because Tuesdays are a rough day for them, and I just stay at the house with them. You know,
Well,
various things there.
um, okay, there was a lot in there.
There was, and I
Right.
apologize.
And I don't want anybody to think that he was comparing an addict to a dog.
No.
So
That was it was the
but-
caring for
Right.
somebody who needed help. That's kind of the
So the
mentality.
whole idea. Okay, so just kind of taking some of what you said. Um, you allowed this dog to kind of wait until it was ready, right?
Mhm.
Well, that makes me think about the fact that we have no control over each other.
Right.
We have no control over what like I don't have a control over what my family members or my close friends or whatever
Yeah.
felt about what I was doing or what they did, and they had no control over me, and so that needs to probably be established in
Yeah.
a mindset, is that no matter how much we want to control things, and for some people, like especially those who are married, what ends up happening is that because the addict is just kind of non-functional in a lot of
Right.
different ways, the non-addict starts to control the situation. So
Right.
so when that person is finally taking some control of their life, that changes, and
Yeah.
the dynamics of everything's changed. So kind of the point that I wanted to kind of get this into was that prior to an addict stopping using
Mhm.
and after,
Yeah.
there's support out there for someone, and there's these support systems that will help you to get healthy.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that you're not healthy. I'm
No.
saying that that anyone who is involved with an addict has some kind of unhealthy emotions or thoughts or whatever it is because it's a chaotic and
It
insane,
is.
unhealthy situation no matter what.
You have to
For you to be for you to kind
Yeah.
of get sucked into that vortex, you're going to find yourself with some kind of those unhealthy.
and I guess we should say too, when we say unhealthy, we're using it as a big umbrella term for the variety of emotions
Sure.
that could be, because that unhealthy, like you could be dealing with things with you could be in heavy denial, and you walk through that, and that denial is an unhealthy position. You could be dealing with anger towards that, and that how you act in that anger can be very unhealthy. You can depression about it, sadness, grief. So there's a wide variety,
Right.
and
We're not saying you're insane.
not saying you're insane.
Yeah, that's not what I mean by unhealthy.
Yeah,
but
it's an emotional storm. Like
Right.
I like how you use the word vortex. I think that's a really appropriate way of describing it. And you have to learn, and this is why we use the term unhealthy, because you have to learn how to navigate the vortex. You have to learn how to navigate what is the storm. And so you do need to know, and this is where it's unique to you, because you're talking to
no,
talking to them.
I'm not.
Yeah. Did that like the Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. No, but there's this vortex, and it's where it's unique to you as the individual, to the loved ones, because no one thinks the way that you do. No one is a clone of each other, and you all think the same way. It's all very unique, and we process things differently, or we see things differently, and so it's very unique. And so your story is powerful, and it's yours. But being able to, within your vortex, to put it, kind of make it more personal, in your vortex, um how can you receive the help to make sure you're thinking things through properly? You're still going to think things your way, but you still have to healthy way perspective.
I would like to correct you a little bit on this.
Please do.
I'm sorry.
No,
okay, so
don't apologize.
So the truth is that individually, your experience
right
but in general, you're no different. You're
Right.
like it's all kind of the same. The whole idea of addiction and what it causes is pretty much the same thing, and
Mm-hmm.
those people who surround it are pretty much the same.
Okay.
Not necessarily the same as in you know like we're robots kind of
Right.
thing, but I'm saying like even though your experience was different than mine,
Right.
like say you're an addict and I'm an addict, your experience is different than mine through the addiction,
Right.
but the idea of it and the whole where you end up and all that is all kind of the same.
Well, and so
It's
you
the same junk. It's just it might be a little different, but it really is the same. Like it
yeah.
makes it so that we can relate. So that's why I go to meetings because as an addict, I can talk to you and not you're not
Right.
okay. Pastor's not an addict. All right. But what I'm saying is that I can talk to you and you're gonna completely understand.
Right.
Even though your experience was different, you'll completely understand. Just like when you speak to about whatever's going on, I will completely be like, yeah, I remember feeling that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this. All right. So now for the person who is outside of the addict, which it could be codependent, it could be whatever, their experiences also are similar to those who have other
And
right. So
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah.
so what? So how do you the problem is that it's hard to admit.
Right.
It's hard for a person to be like, you know what, I was sick too, or you know what, I had these problems, whatever, and I don't want to talk to other people about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you can get yourself to get past that,
Mm-hmm.
and put yourself into they have Al-Anon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would experience that, and you could sit down with somebody else who has experienced that. You'll start to see that okay, there are other people who understand me, even though their experience is different. They understand, and it's almost unspoken at times. There's a connection there, and what can happen is that those people who have been in the program, which is different than AA or NA or whatever, it's Alana, is that they can help you through it,
Mm-hmm.
and they can help you to become healthy and to understand and to just kind of bring yourself to get a little more healthier thoughts,
Right.
feelings, everything like that. And I'm not saying that you're like I don't want the point to be that there's something wrong with you, because that's not the point. The point is that anybody in life should always try to be moving forward, right?
Right.
And so why not? Why would you not want to better yourself? Because that's what'll happen.
Yeah.
Is you will better yourself. Even if the addict is still using, you can still better yourself. And how do you do that? You find people who are going through the same thing but are getting healthy.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of the point of this whole conversation for me.
Right.
Is
Exactly.
that I want to see people get healthy so that the addict can't keep doing what he's doing, or her, right? Because then we're just killing them.
Well, I think that's.
But it goes in also past that.
Yeah.
Past that, like that. So the point I was, is that okay? So now the addict is in recovery, and really kind of trying to get involved. You can do the same,
right?
And you can start to understand why it's necessary and why, it'll open up your world, and you might not feel so resentful. Right. You might not feel so frustrated. You might not feel so alone because what happens is that you have someone to connect with that can help you through that experience.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's one of those things where I may have been individualizing it too much, and you're spot on, because there is this individual, and it is the whole cause effect outcome is all very much the same in all of those things. I love this because, like what you were saying, getting that support system,
right?
Because
it doesn't have to be just Al-Anon. No, I'm assuming that there's churches, there's other. I mean, there's all kinds of avenues.
Well, finding yourself in a community where you're not by yourself. Like don't just because the addict has caused isolation in your environment, and whether that's home, workplace, etc. Just because an addict may have caused isolation, and when I say caused isolation, this is what I mean. I mean, they've made themselves into an isolation where they've
Right.
had to go and get help or all that kind of that treatment. But they've also caused isolation because now the family's gone through a story where they feel so alone. So I'm carrying this. I can't share these details. I can't go into that. The resentment comes in, all that, and that causes isolation. I can't share my story because it's just too ugly,
Right.
or whatever. And so the idea of getting that stronger, healthy community is finding that place where you have someone to talk to. You're not alone. That there is a whether it's a group or a ministry or whatever, that you can share your story, share your resentments, share your pains, your struggles, even, and have a support system there that'll help you process it in a healthy way, so that your loved one who's going through the outperson treatment or going through the additional steps, um that when you come home to them, whether it's a child or a spouse, a loved one, whatever, when you come home to them, they're coming home after getting help and trying to get healthy, right? Getting steps for their process. You've done the same on your end, and you're bringing that to the table as well. And so again, you're creating that healthy community, creating ongoing. I'm not saying it's going to be healthy. I'm saying you're trying. You're going through the steps of making a healthier home, healthier, and you've done
So
your parts.
right, and so secrets are
No, they're damaging.
they well, okay, so
They have a place
you
though.
you you kept those secrets
Yeah.
and you didn't want to break that trust because you really love this person and
Mm-hmm.
everything else, and you tell yourself this lie that I just need to hold their secrets, and because of that I can't
Yep.
go and get help. You
Right.
know what I mean? But that's not true. You
Right.
know, because those secrets are what's keeping you sick, and that's
Right.
what's keeping them sick. And I know that there are some things that you probably just don't want to talk about, and
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Unless if you can find someone to really release that. But the whole recovery is that. So on my end of it, I needed to get rid of my secrets.
Right.
And how did I do that? Well, I didn't do it by um, just isolating myself um, or not trying to find experience with other people who have had the same
Yeah.
problem. I had to really just I had to be honest,
Yeah.
and that's a very hard thing for people to do,
Oh, it is.
and because I mean, because it twists all kinds of things up inside of you that, God, I can't believe I did this, or, because even some people who surround that person have done things that they probably were not very proud of,
Yeah.
or very happy that they did, but the point is that, if you can yourself,
Mm-hmm.
just allow yourself to experience something a little different, maybe a little uncomfortable, whatever that is, to be able to reach out to someone else who's experienced it,
Yeah.
or to someone else, even in the church. Sometimes it's nice to just reach out to somebody who hasn't experienced it
Yeah.
and has some kind of different perspective in life.
Yep.
But you have to get yourself outside of that, because again, the point is that for me, and I'm assuming for you too, is that the community that surrounds the addict needs to be healthy, needs to get healthy, because, like I said, if they're still using it, it kind of constricts that.
Yep.
But even if they're in recovery, your resentments or your frustrations or all them feelings that you feel, can be released, and you can flourish with that person.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing.
Well, and that's the fun part is so creating that openness.
Right.
How do you create that openness? Well, one, you need to make sure you go into a place where you have someone to talk to, and even then, now this is my experience as a pastor too. Is people come in to talk to me, and they come in. There's always been some level of defensiveness. They're going to come in with some fences up. There's going to be some ice out there that you discuss it there, and so one of the things that I do personally that is always really fun because it generates, no matter how heavy the conversation is going to go, um, people step into my office to have a personal conversation with me. I have what I call icebreakers throughout my office, and it's silly little stuff. I'm a self-described geek over certain things. Lord of the Rings and Star Wars being the probably two of the largest things that I geek out about. And so I have a few little things in my office, in a pastor's office. When people walk in and they just do a double take, I'm like, what is that? It's like, yes, that is my toy. That is my lightsaber, or my Yoda coffee mug, or my latest is I have a Gandalf the White on top of one of my shelves. So people walk in and they see that and they go, "Are you serious?" I go, "Yes." And what it does is it breaks down this conversation about a piece where the conversation now is beginning to open up over something really silly and laughable that I can then work into in a comfortable way, allowing them to open up what they're going through. That starts the conversation on an easy level,
Right.
but then brings it where we can bring the heavier stuff in. By the time they're leaving, they've shared what they needed to,
Right.
and but that is one of those things where having that healthy place where you have someone to talk to that doesn't, maybe it's for the sake of just peace of heart, peace of mind, it's not going to feel forced. Like you got to have somebody where there's a comfort, something to put a smile, something to warm you up when you come in, that allows the individual to share.
See, and for me, the just listen to that. To me, the success part of it
Mm-hmm.
is that they actually even showed up,
Yeah,
because that means they're thinking to themselves that
I need to share this.
I need something more than what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Whether it's sharing something, or just being able to hear somebody else, or whatever that is. But because um, you know uh, the the non-addict is just as important in
Right.
this whole conversation. Is
Yeah.
there, if not, I don't want to say more important, because I don't think
There's
anybody
there's an,
I
there's
don't
an
think
equal
anybody's more important.
there's an equal
But
importance there.
right, but their health,
Yeah.
their health emotionally, and their thought process, it's important,
Mm-hmm.
because they need to stop making that addict their life. Their thoughts shouldn't always be on that addict.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like there's this almost like, uh well, it's kind of like when you're going down a road. If this guy's going this way, you got to stay parallel. Well, you don't have to do that.
Right.
That's not what this is about. You being healthy as a person
Yeah.
in general, and the way that you do that is you have to allow yourself
Yeah.
to get rid of some of the junk.
Well, one of the things that happens is when we let our minds dwell on stuff, we create our own storms in our heads. I mean, and this is something I'm guilty of. Where I'll sit there and who's not, right? We entertain a thought, and then we build that thought up greater than it needs to be, and then we're a mess. The anxiety, the depression, the anger. Well, the going back to the that emotional turmoil, just because we built up that thought, we just retained it, as opposed to sitting down with a loved one, and not the addict. I'm talking sitting down with your community,
Right.
and sharing,
Right.
and being able to, for me, when I can sit down and talk to somebody and process my emotions, process what I'm feeling and what I'm going
Right.
through, and just verbally get it out and talk it through,
Right.
I find myself in a much more calmer state of mind, a lot more restful, and there's the level of anxiety is just not there anymore.
See, and think about you doing that with somebody who has had those same exact,
Yes.
um, you know what I mean? And that's kind of why you gather with those who have had not the same experience,
Right.
but have had similar and understand it because you know, it's one thing for me to say, hey, look, this is, you know, this is how it was when I was using drugs, and you'd be
Right.
like, yeah, I'm sure that's how it was.
Right.
But to another addict, they're like, yeah, I remember that, you know.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a little deeper in that whole you know situation. So it's so you know, why not try
Right.
and experience that, because there's help, you
Yeah.
know, and it ain't just the addict who you know, who needs help. And I
No.
hate saying that
No.
because I don't want people to feel like you know, like I'm saying, oh, you know, you're a problem. You know, you're not the problem. The addict was the problem.
Right. But
You,
you still need
but
the help.
you had to adjust to that
Oh
kind
yeah.
of. You had to adjust, and what happens is that it steals a part of your life too.
Yeah.
And so, in order for you to gain that back, you need to take full control over that and start to and find yourself pushing towards a healthier way of thinking,
Yeah.
a healthier way of feeling, a healthier way of life.
Well,
You
and
know,
there's
and you can't focus
no.
on the on what the addict is doing in his recovery
Right.
or her recovery, whatever, you know, because that's not, you are not that person.
Right. Well, and this is the interesting
If
thing
that
too.
makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and one of the things I want to point this out too is by isolating yourself in your situation, you're denying yourself a level of support that is truly amazing. Honestly, is having gone through a scenario where having experienced where dealing with somebody who's in addiction and the mess that it's creating, and then having being open that it's something that is being dealt with, the hey, I'm going through this situation right now myself, kind of thing, and being open about that. Other people who have gone who are either involved in the midst of dealing with a loved one who's in addiction, um with at various stages, they come alongside with a greater support for you for self, um because they've gone through the struggle, they've gone through the difficulty of it, they've gone through the hardship and just the turmoil that can create internally,
Right.
and then they come to you and they come to encourage you and strengthen you in that moment, where if you kept it to yourself you would not have access to that. And so there's a community out there, and I think this is what needs to be said here as well, is within a church, within a community, within a recovering community, there is a community of loved ones that have already started being open and sharing their struggles with this.
Right.
And if you keep yourself isolated in not sharing and going and getting the support that the loving, the loving community around the addict, the one in recovery, if you're not going out and receiving that, you're denying yourself such a great support team that wants to come in and help you process what you're going through. Doesn't I'm not saying they're going to fix you. We're not going to use that, but there's a support they bring, whether it's an emotional support or even a physical support or whatever. They come to you, and you realize in that moment that you are not alone.
Right.
And that speaks a multitude in that.
See, and I think that people have a tendency to think in terms of I'm bad or I'm good, you know, and that's not really that's irrelevant.
You're human
to the whole situation. Yeah, because honestly, whatever you've done, someone's probably done something else. You know,
right.
A little
Well,
and I
yeah.
can attest to that. That I have, you know, I mean, I've done some really dirty, dumb crap. You know.
Yeah.
But the you know, I want you to understand that I'm not saying I know what you should do or what's right or what's wrong, but I wanted to have this conversation because I wanted to spark something in someone's mind that they would understand that there are other things. you
Yeah.
know, and because if you are in that spot where you're feeling frustrated
Right.
and you're feeling resentful and you're like, why is this person, not
Right.
fully consumed with me?
Yeah.
Well, you
You're
know,
you're not the first. And you won't be the last.
right, and there are options out there,
Yeah.
and that's what's important, because if you can get your mindset to a point where okay, I am going to seek help, whatever that means,
Mm-hmm.
um, you've already won,
Right. Exactly.
because you're already on the right track, and that's where I would love to see everybody
Yeah.
is because, like I said, we always need to move forward, and that's kind of the point for me. I just don't want everybody to think that they're alone, because you're not.
Right.
And that's part of the lie that we tell ourselves, and the community tells themselves, is like, well, I'm alone, I'm isolated in a situation. No, you're not. You're just not. You're not alone. And if you take that step um to get out of that shell, or whatever it is, then you are already a success.
Yeah.
You've already made that first move.
Yep.
It's from that point forward, you're going to get better.
And it's and that
Not that you're, and this is what I mean.
stronger.
I don't want you to see it as bad or good or anything like that, because that's just, you know, what is that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, from your perspective, it's probably sin or not sin, but from my perspective, it's, listen, you're a person,
Ooh,
and
very quickly.
everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And whatever those mistakes are, if you don't learn from them, then you're
It's growth. It's getting stronger. I put it to the mentality of like you're a child learning how to walk for the first time, and when you start, it's wobbly, it's goofy, it's silly, it's weak. But as you learn to take one step after another, after another, after another, you get stronger. You get stronger, and pretty soon you're that 6-year-old running across across
right.
town.
And that's a good point, is that you're uncomfortable when you start coming out of your shell, because
Yeah.
When you're in your shell, it's okay, like you feel safe or whatever that is. But when you start to come out of it, it is uncomfortable, and there can be some painful points that you end up going through.
Yeah.
But guess what? At the end of that, whatever it is, that bridge that
Right.
you cross, you're going to look back and you're going to be glad that you
Right.
got rid of that, or that you know what I mean, because change is never easy.
Nope.
And it's never well, it's just never easy.
It's never easy, but
I mean,
but
so,
it's necessary.
well, it is necessary, but you get past it, and you can look back and you can feel good about what you did. Whether that addict does anything else, you, as that person who had to deal with that addict or love that addict, you can look back and be like, you know what, I did all right by me. And
Yeah.
that's what's important, is if you can do all right by yourself, you can be more productive for
Yeah.
to help curb whatever this addiction is. What
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Because it's a mess, and
Yeah.
how do we get out of that mess? Well, we got to start doing something different. So, and that's what I would encourage anyone, even if the addict is still using, I would encourage them to seek out some of these programs and just take a chance.
Yeah.
Just take that chance. It's it's gonna be scary, and it's gonna feel uncomfortable, and you're gonna wonder, do these people really understand? But
Yep.
if you take that chance, believe me, you'll be glad that you did. You'll your experience might not be okay at one spot, but it might be better at a different spot. Whatever you choose.
Yeah.
But try. That's all. I just want to see somebody take that chance.
Yeah.
And
that'll be huge. We in one of our previous sessions we were joined by Jessica, and she had mentioned how they have such great counseling groups for families of addicts, and so that's a great resource. And I still have the phone number listed for that program as well as other programs.
Right.
And then contact your local church. Contact a pastor in the community, to talk to them and just begin processing the information, because again, it's that first step might be awkward, but it's going to make you stronger, and you'll get stronger as the days go by, as you share and you walk through that, and know that you're not alone.
So it makes me think, just quick before we end this, because
Yep.
I think we're at that spot, but it makes me think about, okay, you might want to seek out the people that you think can help and everything else. But I think Forrest Gump was a great example because he sat there and he just told people that didn't
Yeah.
know him. You know what I mean? Like sometimes maybe you just want to dump to a stranger, be like, well, and they probably will be fully engaged, and then as soon as they walk away, they will completely forget about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just you need to make that it nobody else can take you across
We
that.
got we gotta get really
Yeah.
dangerous because I'm like, let's call a random pastor in town and talk to a random
Right.
pastor in town. He's
Right.
he's versed on listening. We listen really well,
Yeah.
but
Right.
it's like, but
Well,
no,
remember
it's,
when he was sitting on the bench,
yeah, oh yeah,
waiting for the bus,
that's like a box
know,
of chocolates.
right? But he was telling stories that, but my point is that if you just take that step and take a chance,
Yeah,
you might find yourself uh, lessening some of those feelings that you're having,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that, because honestly, I really care about the people who also had to go through it with the addict, because it wasn't fair to them,
no,
and they had to adjust their lives. They had to do so many other things that was unnecessary,
Yep.
and it might have stunted some of their growth in their life, and
Oh, yeah.
stunted where their successes could have been, because you know what I mean. And that it is addiction is not fair
no,
to
no.
anyone.
It's
So
not.
so anyhow, that was
That is good. And it is. And that's why there's a community, and that's why we want to have these conversations, and we hope that you enjoy these. The holidays are going to be really interesting. We're going to see how we navigate through the holidays, but we hope that you enjoy these. And we look forward to having another one with you. And so thank you so much for being a part of this. And next time, we'll see you. And God bless you.